Welcome to Mindset Matters. Short and deep conversations and insights about career, business, and life as a whole. I'm your host, Alexandra Atman, mindset coach and founder of the Atman Practice, a boutique mindset coaching consultancy. This podcast has been created to extract and share the knowledge and wisdom that I'm surrounded by every day, coming mostly from my clients and also other wonderful and inspiring individuals I have had the privilege to meet or follow over the years, so that you can learn how people who seemed sorted have overcome mindset challenges and created more success, more purpose, and more happiness and satisfaction in their careers and businesses and ultimately their whole lives. So sit back and join me for this next episode. Once you have watched it or listened to it, I would love to hear from you, your thoughts, your insights. So please either drop me a line on LinkedIn or perhaps leave a comment underneath this recording. Thank you for being here. Be well. My first guest today is a wonderful individual I met when we both worked in commercial real estate. A few years later, when I launched my own practice, she became one of my first clients. She has been growing brands for over 20 years. Her communications and PR experience has seen her working with the likes of beauty multinationals, energy drink phenomenons, cognac, and as I mentioned, real estate firms, in-house as well as an independent consultant. Most recently, she has left the corporate world to set up her own e-commerce brand at Nut&Noggin.com, a plastic-free haircare and beauty business that focuses on bringing the joy back to beauty. Drum roll, please, and warm welcome to the wonderful Rachel Clark. Hello, Rachel.
Thank you so much. Hello, how are you?
Hello, we've been chatting before, a little bit earlier before we start recording. So yes, all good and lovely to see you. And thank you for accepting my invitation today.
That's a pleasure. And that was such an awesome intro. So it's nice to be here. I was just giggling to myself that I used to do some marketing for a cognac brand because I used to hate cognac. Well, I still don't. Well, now I don't even drink.
They haven't convinced you. Yeah, there you go.
No, but it was, the clients loved it. So that was the main thing.
That's key. So that was me introducing you. So how about you introduce yourself in terms of who you are as well as what you do?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Rachel Clark and I am co-founder at Nut&Noggin, which is, as you said, a plastic-free beauty brand. We sell shampoo bars and conditioner bars and soap at the moment. We've got lots of new exciting products coming up this year. And for every purchase, we actually give back to charities helping children and young people who are facing challenges like mental health challenges, such as grief and depression and anxiety. And so, yeah, that's what Nut&Noggin is in a nutshell.
A beautiful purpose-driven business that you have set up.
Thank you.
Is that what you have always done? Obviously, we know that it's not. So, well, let me ask the question.
Wow. It's been a big journey towards e-commerce, but no. So I've been doing PR for 20 years, PR and brand communications. So as you said, for multinational brands, as well as small and growing businesses, and helping entrepreneurs to kind of get in the media, and also to create their own brands.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been. Sorry,
you've done it in-house as well as an independent consultant afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So working in-house I actually used to work for Red Bull and reported into their Austrian headquarters, which was very exciting in your 20s. So yeah, that included kind of brand communications for their new products division. And then I also worked in real estate, which is where we crossed paths for a big multinational. And I think we crossed paths in Leeds, as I recall. So yeah, we were both working in marketing in real estate, which was really fun.
Absolutely. And then you set up your own business, your first own business, is that right?
I did, yes. So I set up a marketing consultancy with about 4 of us initially, and then I've kind of worked on that, on the PR and brand side of things, just before setting up Nut&Noggin. So yeah, it's been, it feels like I've kind of lived lots of different lives, but all doing a very similar thing for lots of different brands. So it's kind of all those different skills that you use across all different industries, which have become really helpful kind of running my own business as well.
Every single step.
Yeah, absolutely, along the way.
What I'm curious about really is, when you went through those changes, because obviously, as we've talked about for so many times, it's like it's so hard to step outside of the corporate, right? And you did it, and you then launched your own, first business. How did you realize, like, what was that urge in you initially, to actually create that change, that first step?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'd already worked in consultancy. That was kind of my first foray into PR and marketing. So I'd already been that kind of trusted advisor for clients. And so I'd seen that side of the business, as well as then kind of doing it in a corporate world. It was very much doing it in-house and consulting for the fee earners within the business. So I had already seen that going on, and I'd kind of experienced it firsthand. And the other thing was I came from a family of entrepreneurs, and so I think when you've seen that as a child and you've kind of grown up with it, you're very used to people doing their own thing and people setting up on their own and kind of doing it that way as well.
So was it easy to actually step outside of the corporate? Because you make it sound like it was, right?
No, it's so hard. I mean, you've got a really great salary, and you kind of, basically I decided to myself I wanted to get to the top of the corporate ladder, and I'd kind of, as a woman in real estate, you're in the minority, and I thought, well, I don't see why I shouldn't get to the top of this.
And you did.
and I decided I wanted to become a director within the business I was at, and that happened, and I worked really hard at it. And then you get there and you kind of think, right, okay, you still want to grow within, I think, yourself and your personal life, but that becomes very much, for me, it's very important, to the work I do, is to bring my own values into it as well. And I think that's where there was kind of a bit of friction in terms of what I wanted to achieve in my own life. So yeah, I think that's kind of where the change gets seeded.
So, but what was the trigger? What was the trigger? What actually made you create that change?
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily a good thing, but looking back, I lost my father, who was, my first entrepreneur in my life, if you like, who's the kind of one that I'd seen doing his own thing for his whole life and absolutely loving every minute of it. And that was just a massive trigger in all sorts of ways. So it's like the rug gets pulled up from under your family's feet, and we were so lucky in so many ways, but it really made me reassess. And that's kind of, that was absolutely the trigger for moving forward.
Thank you for sharing that, and I'm sorry, that was the trigger.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I mean,
it's amazing how many blessings sometimes are in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard so many people speak of very similar, very difficult rock bottoms, whatever they might look like for different people. So I think it's important to share that. If looking back, I wouldn't have waited for that to happen, to make some changes. Yeah.
So what was the biggest fear? Now you're saying you wouldn't have. So what was the fear that was perhaps even before stopping you from actually taking that step?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, from the outside world, you're in your social groups and you're in your family groups, and from the outside world, you're achieving everything you want to achieve, and you're ticking all the boxes, and you're driving a nice car, and you've got your nice salary, and you go on nice holidays, and life can be amazing. But I think it's an internal thing, and it's a very personal thing, in terms of what success is and what does a wealthy life look like. And that was very much where there was kind of a disconnect. Not at first, but it was when I achieved all those things I set out to achieve, then it became very clear that I was like, well, okay, here I am, and I'm ready for something more to happen. So it was very much an evolving process of growth.
So initially, am I hearing it right that initially that fear was mostly coming from the kind of fear of judgment of those around you and your network more than something that was within yourself? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's I think it probably, you know, it does start. I can't believe I'm saying that, because I don't now. I would look at myself and go, well, I would never do that, and I would never care what people think. But there is a lot of societal belief systems that come into it, and you know, you've gone through school, you've gone through university, you're ticking the boxes, you've got promotions, in your working life, you know, you make your career, and you know, that's all kind of almost not set out for you, but
It is.
if
Following
you're
a
really
set
lucky,
platform.
then that can be the track. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that for every, you know, for most people, and for me it was amazing as well, because that allowed me to grow in so many ways. But yeah, it just reached a point where it was absolutely much more important, and it was probably around age 40, you kind of start thinking, well, what do I actually want, and what beliefs do I hold about life?
About everything. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. So what have you done to overcome it, or what did you do at the time, you know, to overcome that? And actually,
Oh wow, this is another great question. So I guess it wasn't so much fear as it was a case of being comfortable, you know, and that sounds incredibly, I don't know, you know, lucky me for getting there and having all this incredible career and amazing contacts, and you know, to overcome the fear of having a job and a steady salary. I think the first thing I did was kind of look for some examples of other people who had not gone that way and who were still having a great life, and also proving to themselves, you know, that they could do what they set out to do, but it didn't have to be, you know, the corporate way. And there are plenty of examples of that. You know, when you start looking, there's so many. So it's kind of, you know, looking at other entrepreneurs, seeing what other people are doing, podcasts, YouTube, you know, you name it, I've listened to it. Business books as well. So it's kind of, you know, success leaves clues, they say. So it was kind of just making sure that I had those role models that I knew were out there. They might not necessarily be next door, but they were definitely, you know, in the UK and around the world. So that was kind of one of the first steps. But the other step was to reach out and find you and reconnect, actually, because I knew what you were looking at was around mindset, and I knew that that was definitely one of the challenges that I was going to face as part of that entrepreneurial journey, because that's what a lot of entrepreneurs say is like, well, actually it's 95% mindset and 5% strategy, and I would totally agree with that.
I always say that it's 80-20.
Yeah,
but maybe I'll start saying that's 95-5, you know, because it's definitely majority of
I guess it depends what day it is, but yeah, I think,
how we feel the day, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so the mindset piece was, I soon realized that those successful people had gone, obviously they also feel fear every single day because we're all human, but I could see that they were doing something to overcome that fear. And so I was like, right, well, I need a piece of that if this is going to happen. Yeah. So that's kind of one of the.
So where are you now? Because then you've launched your consultancy, or it was around the time you've launched that you might have, you know, been operating for some, and then the journey continued, right? And you continued stepping outside of your comfort zone, so you didn't stop there.
Yeah, I don't know, it must be crazy, but I think once you've started doing, you know, the entrepreneurial journey, you could start looking into other things, and what I found was I was spending a lot of time consulting with great people who were entrepreneurs themselves and who were building brands. And I was like, hang on, I've been doing this for like 20 years. You know, why don't I just start my own brand, something that I really believe in, that I believe would resonate with people like me, and use all these skills that I've had to create and develop to launch my own brand. So that's kind of where that started. And that coincided really nicely with you know, the growth of e-commerce and the growth of sustainability as well. Not that we started there, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so do you feel like, I mean, you mentioned before that one thing has led to another, and you kind of continued building those skills up and then using them in that next thing. So when you made the move from consulting to e-commerce, was it straightforward? Or perhaps
I don't think it ever is straightforward. Oh my God. I think the learning curve, I mean, you know, there's no way that you just never have everything figured out. So the learning curve in year one was just, I kind of said to myself, right, I'm going to try this e-commerce thing. I'm going to try and grow a brand. I'm going to give myself 2 years initially, and let's see how it goes. And I thought, well, I can keep some consultancy clients on and see how that goes, which I still do a little bit of. But year one's learning curve was just so steep. So it was just like, give yourself, you know, 100 new things to learn in one day, and that was like every day. And so it was just such a ride. I mean, looking back now, it's like, wow. You know, the learning curve slowed down a little bit, but not that much. There's still so much to learn in e-commerce. So it's
so from the mindset perspective, you know, what I'm really curious about, like with those 100 things to learn every day, how did you, what would your tips be? Because how did you not give into the overwhelm, right? And just decide,
yeah.
oh, it's too much. How did you manage yourself on a daily basis?
I kept just thinking, right, I'm just going to try and grow it, you know, and it very much trying to split it down into, say, 3-month periods. So I'd be like, right, if I try and grow it from nothing to X thousand a month or whatever it might be. And I'll try and do that within the next 3 months, and just trying to break it down. Otherwise it is totally overwhelming. But the other brilliant thing about it is, well, it can be a blessing and a curse, but there's so much information out there. So there's podcasts with other entrepreneurs, you know, that someone else has been through what you're facing at that time. So there's so many helpful YouTube videos and resources everywhere, if you know where to look. So that was a huge help as well, and just a real encouragement that other people had done it and got through it and broken through those barriers at each stage. So, and it still continues.
Yeah, that tip that you said of breaking something big down into smaller chunks, and then just looking and really staying present with that, is that right? Like rather than
absolutely,
future tripping, you know, where you're going to the future in your mind and it can all just blow
yeah,
up.
Totally.
Really.
Well, it was so funny because I guess when you're growing your own brand, you know, although you try and plan the future, you don't know what the future looks like. So there's so much uncertainty anyway. I think because of the level of uncertainty, it just becomes the norm. And then you don't get frightened by it anymore. Yeah. Honestly, that kind of is the weirdest feeling. But because you've already totally blown up your world, if you like, and you've got no certainty every day, and you kind of realize that that is normal for an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you get used to, as a human, you kind of get used to dealing with new things and new challenges. Yeah. And I guess that grows confidence as well. So
it's wonderful to hear. It's like you develop that level of immunity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that becomes the new normal, and then that's your comfort zone, and then you're stretching it a little bit again, and then that becomes the norm. And
yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's so many inspiring quotes on Instagram or wherever, but if you're following the right people, then you kind of realize that that is their norm as well. So it becomes that you understand that growth comes at the end of your comfort zone. And that becomes a reality for you.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy, you know, when I look back, because it's such a change from where I was before.
And were these the tiniest kind of insights that made the biggest difference for you? Like in terms of the fact that everyone who is an entrepreneur actually faces the same kind of fear, that it is common, you know, across all of us as humans who are wanting to grow and do something that's slightly different from the norm.
Yeah, I think there is so much fear in our society, you know, it's especially at the moment, you know, we're surrounded by things going wrong, and if you plug into 24-hour news, you're going to get messages that are going to make you fearful about even going outside in the day. So, you know, there's so much fear around. I think that one of the key insights was just to be able to manage that fear.
Okay.
And obviously fear is a natural human thing. Everyone's scared at some point because our brains are wired to help us survive. So it's like, if there's a lion, you're going to run away or hide. But just managing that mindset, and the work that we did together actually really helped that as well, just to help to acknowledge the fear, and then kind of, it's like the book says, feel the fear and do it anyway. But it's just that awareness of the fear in the first place was just a huge unlocking point for me, because I was like, wow, I'm actually, every day choosing to go with it, as opposed to now where I'm aware of it, I accept it, and then I'll choose a different story. And that's just been huge.
Okay. And when you say I choose a different story, I understand what you mean by that. I don't think everyone in our audience would naturally understand what you mean by that.
God, let's think. So I guess, if I'd met some horrible circumstance, I don't know what, something had gone wrong at work, then I would have obsessed about it for, days, and really festered over who was right and who was wrong. And it would have wasted so much energy. That would have been the story I was telling myself. They were definitely wrong and I was right, and why did this happen? I think when things are moving so quickly in a business or in your environment, in your entrepreneurial life, or even in your career, you can look at things from a different perspective, very much around, okay, what can I learn from this, as opposed to right, who's wrong, get the ego out and start ego bashing. And I just realized what a huge role that the ego was playing as well, in terms of it gets in the way as opposed to helps you move forward. So kind of being aware of the ego and just telling yourself a different story, as in, well, is that really the truth, and how can I learn from this, and how can I move forward from this? It's just been huge in terms of moving forward faster from things that might go wrong in your life, because everyone has stuff that goes wrong. So
thank you for that.
I don't know if I explained that well, but
oh, totally, and wonderfully, and thank you so much for that. And I'm just curious, how has that impacted your life as a whole, right? Because you just alluded to that it's not just about work, it's not just about the business, but really your life as a whole.
I think it's I mean, no one's got the perfect life, but I think just having the insight and a different way to look at things has impacted everything within my life. So, family relationships, friends relationships, who I choose to spend time with, who brings out the best in me, who I bring out the best in. I think it's a huge impact, I think, to have that knowledge, I guess, and be able to use it. And also just from hopefully from being a friend and a colleague and advisor, just being able to help clients as well, just to kind of get unstuck where they're getting blocked as well.
Absolutely. It's amazing that once we can recognize those blocks within ourselves, we can also recognize them within others.
So true. Although not everyone wants to hear it.
Yeah, not obviously everyone has to get there in their own time, in terms of
exactly
wanting to do something about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so very good. So if you were to choose one piece of wisdom, that you would like others to know about, what would you say that it was? What is that?
I mean, we've talked a lot about fear at the moment, and just acknowledging that fear is a natural human emotion, and it can crop up at any time about anything, and everyone gets triggered by different things in the world. But just kind of working with fear a bit more, and just questioning, is that really something that I'm going to let stop me from achieving what I want to achieve, or shall I just stay here in my comfort zone where there is no fear? And it's kind of, once you understand that about, fear being able to stop you, it's like, I heard this great, you might even have told me this, but about fear, everyone has it, but are you going to let it be in the driving seat, or are you going to put it in the back and be the passenger? Because I think the more successful entrepreneurs that are here, and the more successful people and just happy people, everyone has fear, but it's just whether they let it dictate their lives and kind of stop them from achieving everything they want to in their lives. So yeah, it's just managing fear.
Manage fear and manage your emotions, right? And recognize what's going on the inside, so that it doesn't really unconsciously, I guess, affect your choices.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just understanding that the mind is innately sometimes fearful, you know, and that's natural, that's okay. It's kind of not resisting fear, but just accepting it as it is and moving forward from it.
Absolutely. And that in the description they said about the fear not being the driver's seat, that came from Elizabeth Gilbert.
There you go.
The Big Magic, I think, her book. So if anyone would like to read that or have a look at them, I also recommend that. Great. Well, thank you for all of this. Thank you for your insights and for sharing and for your openness, you know, and vulnerability in that as well. Is there anything else that you would like our audience to know about, check out again?
Yeah, I would love the audience just to have a look at NutandNoggin.com, Nut&Noggin, AND.com, and just have a look at what we do and just have a look at the charities that we help work with, because there's some really cool kind of mental health charities that we work with. And the other thing I would just like to say, Alexandra, is thank you for everything you do and for everything that, you know, you've helped me to achieve as well, just because I think, as we said before, mindset is so important, and the more people we can get onto it, the better.
I was so proud I wasn't filling up so far as we were talking.
I made you cry.
You know,
that's good.
Always some tears, right?
If it's worth it, there'll be tears.
Thank you, and thank you so much for putting your trust in me and our journey, and well done, and congratulations on ultimately
awesome.
doing the doing and doing the work and continuing
doing the work with your help.
And we want to see the Nut&Noggin going from strength to strength, and I will include the link as well under this video so that everyone can click on it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Lots of love
as always.
Okay,
let me
really enjoyed it. Good to see you.
Wait, don't go.
Okay.